What's up, everyone? Fight Zone MMA. Today we got some crazy MMA news. Let's get right into it. First off, we got a really strange fight between Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy this past Saturday. Going into this fight, I personally had Movsar Evloev dominating this fight using his wrestling. Movsar is an exceptional grappler, and Lerone didn't show anything in his previous fights that made me think he would be able to stop the takedown or get back up. Then, you get to the actual fight, and Movsar Evloev is trying to stand up in there like he's Sean Strickland. The game plan made absolutely no sense, with Movsar opting to strike for 15 straight minutes, 3 straight rounds, before even attempting his first takedown. Even stranger was the fact that the commentary desk had nothing to say about his lack of wrestling, considering that Movsar is usually prolific in getting an early takedown and keeping his opponent there. You could actually hear the commentary desk complimenting Lerone's takedown defense when Movsar hadn't even shot a takedown at that point in the fight. What is going on here? You fast forward to the 4th round, where Movsar finally wrestles as expected and ends up dominating Lerone Murphy until the final bell. He gets the deserved decision, but the fight still had fans questioning why Movsar chose to fight without his greatest strength for more than half the fight. And then, Movsar's post-fight interview was where the agenda started to become clear. During the interview, Movsar said, "They have no reason to deny me a title shot now." Does this mean that the UFC was withholding a title shot from him before? Let's look at some more evidence. After the fight, Sleazy Ali Abdelaziz, who is Movsar Evloev's manager, posted on Twitter to talk about the fight. Ali said, "The game has changed for all young fighters. Winning alone is not enough anymore. It's about how you fight, how you make a statement, and how you show that you are a complete fighter." That's exactly what Movsar did on Saturday night. One thing I can tell you is that everyone is happy. The UFC is happy, and they've been very complimentary about his performance. For the first time, I'm very grateful. What a statement. It's about how you fight? This is basically confirming what fans were suspecting. Allegedly, Movsar Evloev was told by the UFC before this fight, no wrestling against Lerone Murphy or John Silva is going to be skipping you for the next title shot. This is insane, and it might not even be the first time either. Just take a look at Merab Dvalishvili, another grappler who is hated, considered boring, and used a mostly grappling-heavy style, who suddenly switched up his style to mostly striking out of nowhere, despite the grappling clearly still being effective. Why would he do that? Well, the answer is that UFC is now dictating how fighters are forced to fight in order to increase entertainment value and take away from the grappling dominance in the sport. But at what cost is this coming at? At this rate, UFC is looking like a carny sideshow, closer to UFC and WWE than any real sport. If fighters continue on this track of fighting the style that the UFC forces them to, it's dark days ahead for MMA as a legitimate sport. Next up, we got reports that the UFC is slashing costs again and taking it out on the fighters again. From Elusive 2.0 on Instagram, we have the following allegation. As of 2026, UFC no longer makes provisions for fighters' teams that they previously used to. Outside of the head coach, the rest of the team must now finance their own hotels and accommodations when traveling for international shows like UFC London. Similarly, there are strict limits on +1s and family members who can accompany fighters traveling internationally. What a disaster for UFC fighters. Not only are they being paid the lowest amount possible, only $10,000 a fight, to the point where they need side hustles like YouTube accounts and Uber Eats driving to make ends meet. But they are now also having to pay out of pocket to bring their own coaches to their fights. It's no wonder guys like Danny Silva are putting out post-fight interviews talking about being broke and begging Dana for a $50,000 bonus. This is next level stingy from the UFC. Where's the money from the Paramount deal actually going if it's not going to the fighters? Well, that money is going straight into the pockets of Dana White, Hunter Campbell, and the rest of the Epstein list. Since UFC got all the money from this deal up front, the only way to turn a profit now is to cut costs wherever it's possible. And unfortunately for the fighters, they're always going to be the ones who get their costs cut instead of the executive 7-figure bonus. UFC needs to make their fighters whole right now, or there's not going to be any English-speaking fighters in a couple of years after they all go to construction jobs for better pay. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today. Like, comment, subscribe, Bite Zone MMA. I'll see you in the next one.